Good morning and welcome to this Chronologic webinar on reporting. I am Alistair Slade, the Technical Director of Chronologic, and I am being assisted this morning by Kaylee Johns, who will be monitoring the questions that you can submit using the chat, and any questions that haven't been answered during the presentation we can look at the end. Today we will have an overview of all the reports that are available in the system, but as we have limited time, we will only look at some in more detail. If you have specific reporting requirements that are either not covered today or are outside the standard functionality of the system, then please get in touch. Reporting is useful whether you are running your system centrally or if you have line managers or supervisors managing their own teams directly on the system. With all the new modules and system capability now available, if you see any reports or functionality today that you don't have in your system, please contact us and we can advise how best to ensure your system is providing you with the best possible service. Every day, the system gathers information about employee attendance or otherwise. This information can be tapped into using the reports in your system quickly and easily. Whether you are in operations needing to know who hasn't turned up so that you can arrange cover, or carrying out an HR function to ensure that certificates are up to date and to check what training needs carrying out. Whilst accounts will be looking mainly at the payroll type reports for hours and payments information for payroll, HR will not only need to see the hours worked, but will also be interested in the things like the Bradford factor, as an indication of what effect short-term absence is having on the business. Combine time and attendance and HR-related data, and you have powerful tools to help HR teams, finance, operations, and line managers respond effectively and efficiently. Reporting in the system offers flexibility, which enables users to define individuals and groups of employees to be included, along with cost centers and date ranges if required. By assigning different permissions, once reports are set up, they can be run, viewed, and sent automatically to different departments and line managers as appropriate. Recent advances in what the system can do has meant that, for example, monetary values can now be shown on the timesheet. This means that values can be calculated based on the type of work being carried out for your employees, or indeed for agency workers. This means that difficult to calculate gross pay requirements and reporting are now possible. This also includes the option to manually add mileage on a daily basis, as well as expenses, to timesheet records. One benefit of managing your agency staff on the system is that you will know exactly how much your agencies should be invoicing you for the labour they have provided. In fact, you could be sending purchase orders telling them how much you're going to pay them. If this is something that you would benefit from, please get in touch. Detailed bonus calculations based on hours worked can now also be carried out automatically, as well as being able to provide detailed hours analysis both directly on the timesheet and on reports. Reports are accessed using this icon here or here, and then clicking on the report in the list. You can also access reports using the drop-down menu at the top here. As I'm using the enterprise version of the system and have some custom reports implemented, you will see more reports than you would normally. If you have a requirement for a report that you don't see today, please get in touch as we will be able to help. As you will see, there are some reports that you can use as templates to easily make other reports from within the system, and some that are fixed. The absence periods and employees reports appear in the folders at the top here, and if you have any custom reports in the system, they will be in the My Reports folder. As you can see, there are a wide range of reports. Some, like the absences and attendance report, here are top-level reports, with just summary information being available. Then there are the reports that provide information on exceptions and infringements, like lateness, as well as flexi time, and the totals by employee and totals by week report, for more detailed reporting including gross pay if you have an hourly rates entered into the system. On some reports, like the Totals by Employee report, there are graphical options for displaying the information in pie chart or graph format if required. In the operation of your business on a day-to-day basis, and depending on how you have implemented the system in your organization, central administration, line managers, and supervisors are able to use the exception reports to manage the data quickly and easily. Users can also access detailed information about employees stored in the fully customizable HR module. Cost variance and other things like the working time directive reports provide valuable information about hours and costs. And in addition to the reports listed here, most screens within the system also provide report options in, for example, availability, to see who is already on holiday, using the availability screen, and calendar reports, both list and graphical, can be accessed from the calendar screen. Whether you are using a central administration model or have line managers and supervisors working directly on the system, you can schedule an exception report for automatic delivery using the optional Alerts Workflow module on a timed basis. This tells users when they have work to do on the system to, for example, correct exceptions, or arrange training, or check visas, and can automatically alert central admin if exceptions are not being dealt with efficiently. In the case of centrally administered systems, this enables non-system users to be emailed a list of items that need to be rectified that they can comment on and forward on to central administration for those changes to be made to the program. Also, the rota, availability, sickness, and calendar reports are available to provide efficient management of absence and ensure you have the correct resources in the right place at the right time. This might also include skills and particular responsibilities like first aider and fire marshal. PPE, first aider, forklift truck, appraisal, certificates, work permits, and other anniversaries and expiries can be reported on quickly and easily by either central admin, line managers, or supervisors. You can choose which reports each line manager and supervisor has access to via their user setup. Any date field that has been added by you to the HR screens for employees can be reported on, as we shall see in a minute, and the Alerts Workflow module can also email these reports automatically when the conditions you have set in the workflow are met. Thus, for example, managers could be informed when a certain type of certificate is going to expire in, say, 120 days, so that the employees in question can be scheduled onto a refresher course to get their certificate renewed. Let's have a look at how we access and run reports. And at the same time, we will see how we can access the HR data stored as standard within the system. And in the customized fields you can easily create yourself in the free HR module. If you already have a separate HR system, as some of our customers do, the system can be used to store information that line managers and supervisors need if they don't have access to the other HR system. If I click on the Employees folder here in the tree view, and then click on the normal report, we will see that the standard HR report template preview screen appears. Depending on which report you are running, there are different options available. The printed page icon either creates the print preview directly using the report in the top of the list, if there is a drop-down arrow, or you can use that drop-down arrow to select the different options available. The circular arrow icon is a refresh button, in case you have changed any settings and want to refresh the data in the grid. Remember, if you have a list of employees or resources like this in a grid, in the same way that you can on a name normally in any other place in the system, you can generally right-click on that name and navigate to other areas in the system quickly and easily. The drop-down arrow next to the floppy disk icon, for those of you who can remember what floppy disks were, gives access to the comma delimited or CSV output for using the information in Excel or importing into other systems. Here we can see the group selector. You will also see other selectors like this one for other things like cost center. They all work the same way. Click to drop down and select all, or a single group, or use the multiple groups option to select more than one, as we can see here. The primary group option restricts the report output to show the employee only once in their primary group if they appear in more than one of the groups selected for the report. The primary group is chosen on the Employee screen Groups tab. Remember that the primary group also dictates what color shows behind the employee name on the Rota screen. This is the Date filter selector. The options showing here include the standard start, left and date of birth fields, and any date fields that you have added to the HR side of the system yourself. Let's choose First Aid Expiry. As you can see, there are multiple ways to select the dates to be reported on. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, and so on. Let's use the next X days 120. On the employee report specifically, we can use the field selection drop-down boxes to select the items we want to report on. These include the standard HR data fields within the system and any user fields that you have created to make your specific HR database. Here you can see I've chosen the first aid expiry date. If you need to show more information, then click on the plus sign to add more columns. You can choose the sort order for the report by clicking on the column header of the field you would like to sort on. First click Sort Low to High, subsequent clicks reverse the sort order each time. Once you have selected the options you require, you can use the Save Template button to save this report off with the settings that you have chosen. Use a name that you will recognize easily in the future. You can also choose whether this report is just for you by selecting Private, or can be used by other users by leaving the public setting selected. We then get a message to tell us it's been saved, and if we open the folder up again, we can see there is our First Aid Certificate Expiry report. Here we can see that we have created reports for things like appraisal dates, forklift truck certificates, and the one we just created, First Aid Expiry. Remember that any data or date field you have added to the HR screens is available here. So that's how easy it is to get the data you've stored in the HR database back out. On a day-to-day basis, users in operations will either use the exceptions module accessed from this icon and carry out exceptions directly on the screen. For example, adding an absence record directly onto the timesheet. Here I am adding a sick record. Or a central administrator can run reports off for printing or emailing to managers by right-clicking on the appropriate exception and choosing Produce Report. The report can then be printed or saved as a PDF as required and provided to managers to give the reasons for the exceptions listed. If you want a report for a particular group, then right-click on that group and select Produce Report. Managers and line managers can have a full list of exceptions emailed directly to them using the Alerts Workflow module if required. If you don't have the Alerts Workflow module, please contact us. At any time, reports can be taken to interrogate the information contained in the system. Standard reports available within the system are things like the simple top-level absences and attendance reports here. This is the Bradford Factor report, which shows users the effect that an employee's absence pattern is having on the business. The higher the number, the more disruptive the effect on the business. You wouldn't use the Bradford Factor report to sack anyone, but it is often used at appraisal time with a threshold that can be set here to see what effect disruptive sick is having on an organization. There are also other date options here, or you can choose rolling year by clicking this button, and you can choose what to include and what not to include according to your needs. Information on raw clockings, those before any edits are made, is available in the clockings report, while the clockings edits report gives you exactly that, the edits that have been made by system users when editing clockings, and the comments that they have made and reasons used when doing so. I happen to know there was one on the 20th of October, but don't tell anyone what comment I wrote. The cost variance report is used to show the difference between the scheduled and actual working hours, and can include gross cost if the gross hourly wage has been entered for employees. This is a useful report to see where extra hours and therefore cost has been expended. You can also use the cost variance report to help balance overtime by sorting by the variance hours by clicking on the column header, initially low to high, and then a second click, high to low. Balancing of overtime can also be done in the payroll report, as we shall see in a moment. What I haven't been doing is showing you how these reports are formatted to be printed, but I am sure you realise that when you click on the report button you get a print preview like this. Remembering that you can export the information in many different ways and even print it out on a piece of paper if you would like to. You can also email reports directly from this screen when that option is enabled. FlexiTime reports are available if you use that option within the system. The holiday report allows users to report on employees with days or hours type holiday allowances and enables users to see how many days are left to be taken per individual and in total, so that you don't get any nasty surprises as the end of the calendar year approaches. If you run your calendar year per employee based on their start date, then this isn't as much of an issue, and that is possible within the system if required. This report can also be used to report on public holidays, if you need to track those separately, as well as time off in lieu. Infringements shows you statistics on things like late arrivals and early finishes, and is available in text, graphical, or combo options. Let's have a look at the combination one and zoom in a bit so you can see it more clearly. Lateness shows you the times and minutes lost when employees were late, both outside the grace and inside the grace. It is surprising how just a few minutes missed here and there adds up. And just think what productivity is lost if employees are clocking in even during the grace period and are at the clock at that point, not even at their place of work yet. Our customers tell us workforce management systems often pay for themselves in a matter of months. The Logged In Users report does what it says and provides a list of the users who are currently logged into the system. The Memos report provides information on the memos entered against the employee records within the system. And now we come to one of the main reports, the payroll report. The accounts department would normally use the payroll report to get hours for payroll purposes, but it can also be used by operations to balance overtime and report on what hours are being worked in what cost centers or on which production lines. Here we can see that we have more options, again, compared to the other reports so far. The Report Preview button, in this case, shows us that we have multiple options available depending on the type of report we are looking for, as there is a drop-down arrow. The Refresh button is there in case you want to refresh the data after you have made changes to the filters or the data in the background. Now the floppy disk icon shows us the payroll export formats as well as the standard CSV output options. If you don't see your payroll software, or that of your bureaus, in the list, get in touch as we can generate custom exports where required. Exporting of hours electronically is standard functionality, and we can provide help setting up the export so that you don't have to type hours into your payroll system ever again. There is also the option to email employees their detailed payroll reports using the email button. The date selector in the payroll report enables you to select data based on the week, date range, or a specific day if required. Or you can use the built-in range options and week numbers. You can also filter by group, and if you are using cost centers to report on hours worked in certain areas or on specific projects, then use this tick box to activate the cost center filter. There are various formatting options, as well as the ability to show the shift start and end times on the detail reports, and the matrix at the bottom showing you what will be included on the report is here. Here we can see that the new approval feature in the system has been activated. Up to 3 levels can be set, and those with red exclamation marks are those that are yet to be fully approved. The different colours showing at which of the 3 levels available they are currently approved. Green are fully approved, yellow are at level 2, blue level 1, and brown means no approval at all, and as you can see, not locked yet because there are exclamation marks in the locked column. To export the data ready for importing into your payroll system, simply click on the floppy disk icon. The export format is selected like this, and a box appears showing you the data that is going to be exported. Clicking on Save to File enables you to save that file off, ready to be read into your payroll software with a few clicks of your mouse. Much more efficient than typing it all in. If you need help setting up a payroll export, just get in touch. To preview a report on all the employees showing in the grid, simply select the type of report you want by clicking on the Report button. You may be asked if you want to recalculate all the timesheets to make sure that everybody's hours are being calculated using the latest versions of the rules, and indeed to lock all of the timesheets so that they cannot be modified in the future. If you click directly on the Report button, then you get the report that is at the top of the list. In this case, the summary. You can also email this report directly from this screen to your payroll department or bureau as well. As a side note, if you use the Employee Self-Service module, then as well as employees being able to book absences electronically for approval directly on the system, employees can track their hours online as often as they like. This gives you the opportunity to make the highlighting of any issues with their timekeeping their responsibility, thus saving you time making sure the hours are correct on the timesheets. If you just wanted to report on one or a few employees, clicking on the rows selects those employees. Or you can click on one row, hold down Shift, and click on another row to select all those in between. Then click on the Report Preview button to show the report as before. You've also got the buttons here to lock and unlock and recalculate the timesheets for the date range selected as well. So, what other reports have we got? Well, timesheets, totals by reports here, and the Who's In report allows you to set a date and time and see who was clocked in or out at that specific time. The Working Time Regulations report allows you to report on weekly averages over a date range that you choose. Here, I'm doing a few weeks. Always good to do it over less than the full number of weeks required, so you've got a chance to correct things if necessary. That is, of course, assuming that they haven't signed a waiver allowing them to do 150 hours a week, without question, of course. Okay, so that was an overview of all the reports and a more detailed look at some of the reports within the system. I imagine that those of you that have been paying attention will have noticed that I on purpose didn't look at the absence periods report at the top earlier. Let's have a look at it now. The absence periods report provides a detailed reporting capability on absences and reason codes within the system. Like the employee report, the user can select criteria for the report and save them off to use them again in the future. If I open the folder by clicking on absence periods and clicking on normal, we get the template. We have the standard report preview button and refresh. By the way, the yellow question mark gives you access to the context-sensitive help, which provides help on the screen that you are looking at. In the absence period report, the different radio buttons allow you to select from the actual periods that employees have been absent, that is, each specific period that an employee has been absent, the total for employees, or indeed the group averages. We also have various other options over here, depending on what you're trying to achieve, including the standard group selector and date and time. We are talking about absences or reason codes here, and here we have got the list to choose from. Remember that this list is your list. It isn't a standard list, and you can have whatever you like here to suit your organization. We can select one or many, and in this case I want all of the sick codes. You may have noticed that the matrix behind had a larger selection of codes as well as the sick codes that we're now selecting. So selecting those codes and refreshing brings up just the sick records that we want to see. Once we've made our selection and press refresh, we can click on the report button, and that will give us the report that we can then PDF or email to those people who need it, as well as printing it out on paper, of course. We could filter the information further by changing the period length here to restrict what appears on the report further. And remembering that, as with the employee reports, we can save this off for use later on. I can also choose whether it's public or private. Then we get the acknowledgement message, and that report appears up here. We have looked at the specific periods. Now we can also look at the employee totals. In this option, we can use the filter box down here. There are various options for the filter box that you can put in, and you can use more than one at a time. They can be found in the help screens. Here you can see that we can filter down the details even more. That's the totals by employee. And oh yes, you can also get the percentage absence compared to work days and the Bradford factor. As you can see, we are reporting on all the groups, and so employees show in all the groups that they are in on the system. If I then choose group averages, we can see, based on the different groups showing, the percentage of absence against work days, and the Bradford factor for that group. Not sure what's going on in the accounts department here, mind you. That's the absence periods report and all its different options, including the ability to save it off. I did mention earlier on that there are custom reports available. We have some extra reports here that we have pre-done that give extra information on things like holidays and pay history. They can provide things like how many days holiday are left to be added to payroll when an employee leaves the business, for example. If you need a report that you haven't seen today, please get in touch with us. I will just quickly summarize and then we can have a look at the questions. As you now know, you can access reports from various places within the system. The Employee and Absence Periods report we can save off as templates so that you don't have to select the criteria every time. And that there are various different types of report that help you to manage the business on a day-to-day basis and at period end. So, let's have a look and see if there are any questions. There are a couple of questions here. Just let me see. Okay, this question is a refresher on the employee report. The fields that are available here in these drop-down selectors. Sorry, the question is, which fields are available and how do you add fields to this list? The fields that are showing at the top here are the standard fields within the system. And the ones at the bottom of the list here are all the different fields that have been added to the employee screens. Things like forklift truck certificate expiry, hygiene certificate, all those kinds of things, which are added through system setup. I won't go through how to set those fields up right now, but if you want some help doing that, then please get in touch. Okay, let's just see if there are any more questions. Okay, so there's a question about more information on the types of fields. Hold on. Okay, the fields here can be date, number, list, single and multi-line text, as well as links to folders or scanned-in documents. So you can do things like shoe size and things like that, as well as a drop-down list that allows you to choose, for example, old and new contract, that kind of thing. Okay, so any more questions? Okay, so the question is, how do I add more tabs on the employee screens? Okay, I'm going to have to show you where the fields are set up now, so let's do it. If we go into System Setup, we will see that in the User Field Setup screen that we have the ability to add column breaks. As you add column breaks and fit them in between the other user fields you have already created, they move the fields after them onto the next column and eventually onto the next tab. If you are an administrator, then once you have created a new tab, you have the ability to rename it by right-clicking on it and then clicking on Rename. Okay, so do we have another question? Okay, so somebody's asking, is there an easy way to show holiday accruals? Well, first of all, you have the ability to set the employee to have fixed days or hours or earned days or hours as their holiday type. Then there are two ways to look at the information. The first is to look at the historical information, which is up to date in here, which will also show you the allowance based on if they have earned any hours. It will show on their calendar screen as well. It will show in here as their allowance, and if you have the employee self-service portal, they can see this themselves. They can also book absences through the employee portal, of course, and see whether it's been granted or refused. And the last place you can see it is on the holidays report, which is in here. And if the report is already open, you can find it along the bottom here with all the other open tabs available to us. And here we can see, based on the year you are reporting on, the allowance and what's been taken and the balance, etc. Okay, next question. On the watch screen, it would be nice to see if someone is on holiday or not. Yeah, you'd need the focus attendance board to have that information, which is an optional module that can be purchased and added to the system. This module allows you to choose what information is shown on a browser-based screen, which can run on desktops or indeed on screens on the wall and show who's in and who's out in large format. That's the focus attendance board. If you have information on that, then please get in touch. Okay, I think that's all the questions now. I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and if you've got any questions or would like any more information on anything you've seen today, then feel free to get in touch and we'll see how we can help you. Thank you and goodbye.